New York's Republican candidate for governor comes under attack. And not just rhetorical, but physical. Good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen. This is another Declaration of Truth from your host, Terry A. Hurlbut. Well, Representative Lee Zeldin of New York's 1st District must be doing something right. His opponents have gone beyond the ignoring and laughing stage, the two of the 4 stages of Gandhi. Last night, someone had to try to implement the attack stage, literal and physical. We don't have that often in American politics, even New York politics. And that we've just seen it now shows that the American political left is getting more desperate all the time. Before I go into detail, I do want to shout out to the sponsor of this channel, which is Conservative News and Views, link in the description. Be sure to check out the awesome CNAV Store. Scroll down near the bottom for that link. Lots of good merchandise there, including this t-shirt that I've chosen today. Money Pox. Yes, we have the 3 monkeys with bundles of cash arranged in various parts of their heads. Translation: when money talks, certain people hear no evil, see no evil, and speak no evil, which could be part of what went on last night. Reportage of the incident comes from the Rochester Democrat and Chronicle, WROC TV, Channel 8, Rochester, New York, WHEC TV, Channel 10, also in Rochester, CNBC, Politico.com, and the Associated Press through NPR. The tone of the reportage is equal parts shock, disbelief, and relief that the attacker didn't actually hurt anyone. Now let me repeat that. Nobody got hurt on either side of this affair. This much we know, and it isn't much, even after as many hours as have passed, so nearly 24. Lee Zeldin was speaking at a Veterans of Foreign Wars post in Fairport, New York. At about 8 o'clock last night, one David G. Jakubanis, age 43, a local man, somehow got onto the stage. He had been stumbling through the crowd. Witnesses said he was drunk, so he probably wasn't in any shape to hurt anybody. Nevertheless, he got close enough to take a swing at Zeldin with something. The Monroe County Sheriff won't say exactly what it is, except that it wasn't a long-range weapon by any stretch of the imagination. The guy took a swing at Zeldin and said, "You're done." Well, Lee Zeldin, by his own account, grabbed the man's wrist before others on the stage could subdue him. They had him thoroughly restrained by the time Monroe County Sheriff's deputies arrived to take him to jail. Now, one witness, AMVET's National Director Joe Chenelly, expressed compassion for the man, who said he had served in Iraq. I mean, you gotta hand it to this guy. He said to the man, "We'll get through what you tried to do tonight. We know you're hurting." Mr. Chenelly used the occasion to illustrate the mental health issues so many veterans have. By the way, Mr. Zeldin is a veteran himself. He's a light colonel in the U.S. Army Reserve. His experiences in military intelligence and the JAG Corps, both as prosecutor courts-martial and as military magistrate. Now, do I think anybody groomed Mr. Jakubanis? I have no idea. But post-traumatic stress disorder, sometimes known as delayed stress, is extremely common among combat veterans. Now that could be a setup for somebody putting silly ideas into his head. But the people at the scene who took him down did exactly the right thing. Either way, they didn't hurt him, they showed compassion on him. Now I have links in the description to 4 tweets that have video, a statement by Mr. Zeldin, a detailed statement about how Mr. Chenelly handled it, and a statement by Acting Governor Hochul when she heard about it. Now, let's break that down right now. Acting Governor Hochul rather sensibly made no attempt to excuse Jakubanis' behavior. She said, and I quote, "I condemn this violent behavior in the strongest terms possible. It has no place in New York," unquote, Acting Governor Hochul. Well, she's got a little problem. See, several hours earlier, her campaign team had put out a parody of Zeldin's campaign schedule. Now, I'm not going to narrate that in any detail. It's in the article. I have a link to it in the description. She referred to Big Line Lee and his entourage of extremists. It sounds like some kind of rock band, like Sgt. Pepper and the Lonely Hearts Club Band. Well, you can interpret that however you like. She made much of his pro-life and pro-Second Amendment ideology. And incidentally, the pro-Second Amendment part is a position she once shared until she, for whatever reason, decided that gun grabbing would be a more politically expedient position for her to take. But that's the political left for you. The real bottom line is this. With a statement like that on her record, Governor Hochul has laid herself open to a charge of provocation. Now, I do want to talk about Lee Zeldin's real agenda, so you can decide who's extreme and who isn't. Now, before I do, I want to shout out to another sponsor, BitNext. BitNext is your replacement for Zoom, Slack, the Google G Suite, Microsoft Office 365, Dropbox, WeTransfer, and Chili Piper, among others. Unlike any of them, BitNext protects your content and conversations so well even the administrators can't see it. So this is your channel for secure comms, conferencing, cloud storage, and file sharing. Best of all, everything is back-end. You don't even need client software. If you have a browser, you can use BitNext. Follow the link at the bottom and give them a try. 28 days free of charge. You can't beat that with a stick. That's good. Now, who is Lee Zeldin and where does he come from? Well, if you want to know that, don't go to his opponents. Go to his campaign website. I've left a link to it in the description. He addresses street crime, tax and regulatory costs, personal freedom, education, government reform, and veterans issues. Lee Zeldin did praise the Supreme Court's decisions in Dobbs v. Jackson Women's Health Organization and New York State Rifle and Pistol Association v. Bruin. He has also made an issue of election reform. He wants voter ID, a thing New York does not yet have. In addressing the Dobbs and Bruin decisions, Zeldin shows that if anyone is extreme on these issues, New York is. In New York, I kid you not, the Carhart technique remains legal. And some of the things that Kermit Gosnell did, if he had done them in New York, it would have been all right. But more to the point, Zeldin himself could speak directly to the viability standard as few men can. His twin daughters were born at about 25 and a half weeks gestation, and they still survive. Now let advocates for reproductive freedom chew on that for a while. Now, on the day that the Bruin decision came down, Lee Zeldin warned Kathy Hochul to comply with the ruling. Now, as I have discussed quite recently, she has clearly violated it in spirit, if not in letter. All that to say this, Lee Zeldin seeks to roll New York back from extremism, not foster it. So, when David Jacobonis physically attacked him, he called attention to him, and Kathy Hochul cannot afford to have anyone pay that kind of attention to Lee Zeldin, because when people do pay proper attention, they can see the contrast between him and Hochul. Lee Zeldin is a consistent advocate for life, liberty, and property, and at the same time, he has surrounded himself with compassionate, not vindictive people. Now, that's just the kind of person any sensible voter would want in a state governor. Link in the description of the article, to the 4 tweets containing videos of and statements about the incident, to Lee Zeldin's campaign site, and to conservative news and views. I have another link to the awesome online store and to BitNext, as I also mentioned. And if you like what you've heard, you can like this video. On the end screen, I'm going to put in a subscribe link and also a link to 2 recent videos about how people are reacting to 2 of the most important decisions of the United States Supreme Court. This is Terry A. Hurlbut delivering another declaration of truth and reminding you to let the truth set you free.